So, good morning. We have discussed about the substations equipment and also the importance of various substations. The final topic of discussions will be on the safety aspects, which is very important, the safety precautions which have to be followed in a high voltage laboratories or high voltage substations or high voltage transmission by the people of utilities who are working in the high voltage transmission. So, any employee or a staff could be exposed to the electrical hazards. So, these electrical hazards could happen in a high voltage area. So, a proper precaution, proper training has to be available to the staff or employees who are working in the utilities or in the substations. So, electrical safety measures and taking necessary precautions to identify the and control particularly the electrical hazards is of a very important concern to the people who are involved in the electrical utility activity. So, we will discuss a few of the important measures which are normally followed as per the standards and how the safety aspects are important for the performance of the employees in the substation or in the high voltage transmission networks. So, this figure shows various types of safety equipment which are to be normally used in a substation or by the utility personnel in functioning and saying that proper protection is taken care. So, there are several equipments which are available in the high voltage substation. It could be a partial discharge safety survey equipment where the discharges from the substation equipment, it could be a transformer, it could be bus bars, it could be circuit breakers, or it could be any of the equipment where the discharge could be happening. So, such measurements in a substation about the activity is a very important aspect to take necessary cautions about the exposure by the personnel who are working in the substation. The second being the insulated mats, insulated ladders which are normally employed by the personnel, including the insulating gloves of people who are working at a very high voltage. So, this will help in proper in insulating them when they are working in high voltages. So, apart from this insulating gloves, there are the rescue kits and also the rescue rods for a case of emergency. So, this could be the earthing kits, various type of earthing rods and earthing clamps which are to be used for grounding the equipment or earthing the equipment during the maintenance when the equipment is to be checked for routine maintenance or the replacement of the parts connected with the equipment. So, various type of detectors for voltage and currents, protective clothings and general information in case of the work which is being going on, a proper sign boards are also to be made available for the proper safety of the people to make aware about the various works which are being undertaken in the substation. So, electrical safety is a very important concern. So, taking necessary precautions in identifying and controlling these electrical hazards is a very important aspect by the utility engineers. So, the electrical hazards could exist in almost any workplace. It could be the high voltage related laboratories, a high voltage substation, or it could be the electrical networks which has CTs, PTs, or it could be domestic networks where the personnel have to attend the regular electrical maintenance work. So, these hazards could cause, some of the common causes could be electrocute a person when he makes contact with the overhead bare conductors, or during any undertaking of the maintenance particularly on the live equipment, or when working with a damaged electrical equipment. It could be like the extension of the leads or the conductor where the insulating material has been damaged, and also when is working near the sockets or plugs where the connections to the plugs or sockets could have been damaged. So, these causes of could cause an electrocution to the human who are working in the concerned utilities. So, the response particularly in case of any electrical accidents. So, the other personnel who are nearby, it is very important a proper response to these accidents have to be made known. So, this could be, if possible, they have to disconnect the electrical supply which is nearby, the main electrical supply, that is a switch has to be immediately turned off. The other personnel should assess the situation, and he should take proper precautions before attempting to save a person. So, proper, he has to insulate himself properly and go near the vicinity of the person whom he likes to help or whom he has to help during the electrical accidents. So, in case if it is possible, he should apply the first aid principles as mentioned in the manual which is being trained manual to the substation staff or the electrical utility staff. He should assess the injuries in case and take immediate action and see that the person is moved to a safe area if required, and better to seek immediate urgent medical attention, so that the proper care is being attended. So, these electrical contacts or electrocution with the humans could lead to various effects on the human body. So, you can see here the table shows the current values in milliamps and the effect to which the human body could sustain. So, any current of a milliamp, 1 milliamp flowing into the body could have a slight tingling sensation with the human body when a person comes in contact with the electrical live lines. So, if the current increases or if the current which is passing into the human body is anywhere between 2 to 9 milliamps, a person could experience a shock, a minor shock where he could be seen feeling from the electrical electrocution. So, in case the current exceeds between 10 to 24 milliamps, there is a chance where his muscles could contract and could cause him to freeze. So, the larger the current above 10 milliamps is a serious concern, and if it exceeds more than 25 range between 74 milliamps, his respiratory muscles could become paralyzed. Pain, heavy pain and exit burns often could be visible from the body of the human who has been electrocuted. Above 75 to 300 milliamps, it could be a fatal, the accident could be a fatal, and there could be a ventricular fibrillation, entry and exit wounds very clearly visible, and he has to be immediately attended. And anywhere above 300 milliamps of current passing to the body because of the accidents, it is certain that a person cannot survive. If in case he survives, it will be badly burnt, the organs could be majorly affected, and sometimes he may probably require amputations at that area in case if the contact has happened. So, very important is to see that a proper precautions, a proper safety, a proper before attending the job, trying to switch off the mains and try to see that no live connections are nearby during the personnel at work. So, some important cautions before attending the work in a substation or in any utility is to see that the personnel who are at the substation avoid wearing the metal objects. The metal objects could be the wrist watches or some metallic connected with the personnel who wear any, it could be objects which he has, which he puts on his body. So, try to avoid the metal objects and see that the power is turned off in case of emergency, and clothing, appropriate insulated clothing, particularly personnel who are working in live line maintenance and in the substations. So, using appropriate clothing is advisable, and it is advised not to touch the live parts without proper insulating or without disconnecting the electrical equipment which is connected to, and it is advised to see that any repair of the electrical equipment or installation of the new equipment or replacement has to be conducted or has to be performed by a qualified licensed personnel. It could be licensed electricians who are qualified to work in high voltage substations, or a licensed supervising personnel who have examination qualified and obtained the license from the authorities. So, such personnel should be allowed to install repair any electrical equipment in the substation, particularly at higher voltage levels. It is advisable to see the leads, particularly the connections should be properly cleaned and properly plugged before the use. So, contact points should be verified, there should be no loose contacts in the connections. Then all the personnel have to heed to the warning signs which are specified in the standards, and right type of equipment is to be used. The tools and the equipment which are required for the installation or for the operation of that equipment, necessary correct equipment have to be used, and the manual which is being available in the substation have to be properly followed, particularly related to the safety information and safety conduct of the changes in the substation. And it is necessary to see that proper care has to be taken when the extension leads or extension connections are required near the equipment. These extension leads or connections have to be properly insulated, and see that this do not interfere with the other live equipment which are nearby and could create a short circuit or could electrocute a person. And in case of the lamps, particularly working lamps, so proper extension lamps have to be used with the necessary protection, particularly when current exceeds. There should be proper fuse elements or a miniature circuit breakers or a circuit breakers to trip the connections during the flow of current or during the flow or during the electrocution which could happen. So, very important precautions which have to be followed in the substations. So, these are some of the precautions. There are many which are available in the standard operating manual which is kept in the substation or at the utility points for the staff who are working in the utilities. So, electricity is essential, in fact it is a very important requirement for the humans, for the industry, for the agriculture activity, for many of these aspects, but in case if it is not properly used it could be dangerous. So, working with electricity has to be very given an utmost importance and utmost precautions and care has to be followed. So, this is one of the example where gives about the step or a touch potential for the human body which he could experience in the field. So, it is advisable to see that a personal, particularly during the monsoon season because of the lightning activity, it is advised the personnel should not come in contact with the metal tower or the huge trees or any conducting equipment or the high raised objects. So, this could induce the current and could see that a person could be electrocuted during the lightning aspect or because of the wet or a contamination on the surface. If there is a induced current, personnel is likely to get electrocuted because of the contact which he could be because of either as a step potential as just as example which is shown here, in case there is a fault induced. So, this fault induced the current has to go to the ground through proper connecting media. In case if it happens he is on the disturbing the way and if it is not properly earthed, there he could face what is known as a step potential, and the currents could flow into the body of the human and it later could be grounded, which is a very serious part where a person could be electrocuted. Similarly, it could be a touch potential where the tower, metal object or any other object could be because of the fault induced, likely the current could be flowing to the earth. In such instances, if a person touches the metal object or a tree, he could also face the touch potential and he could experience that, and later it could be he is showing the path for the grounding. So, it could take the path through his body and later it could be grounded. So, proper grounding of the equipment and also these types of hazards are likely to happen. The proper care has to be taken by the personnel who are working near the high voltage towers, particularly in substations. So, high voltage shock or electrical shock is a very powerful it is very powerful which happens, and it tries to push the person away from the source due to the high voltage pressure. So, some of the cases it can because of the shock or electrical high voltage contact, person getting contact with the high voltage, it can rupture human skin. It could reduce the resistance of the human body during the contact and which could allow more current to flow in his body, and can cause a greater damage to mainly to the internal organs of his body. Electrical injuries consist of 4 main types. This could be electrocution and it could be fatal, very serious. There could be a electrical shock which a person could recover, it could not be a very serious, but shock he could feel the effect. The third could be a major shock contact with the electrical equipment or electrical connections, and there could be what is known as electrical burns on the body of a person who comes in contact. And finally, the electrical injuries can cause a result of contact with the electrical energy, and the person could fall because of the touch or a potential when it comes in the contact with the equipment. So, these electrical injuries which could happen during the contact of the live lines or the live equipment by the personnel could occur in various ways. It can be because of the direct contact with the electrical sources or electrical equipment or the live line, or because of the insulation which is degraded, or because of the damage which could have happened because of the conducting wires. So, these injuries that occur when electricity touches to a victim or could also be because of the flash burns which could be generated by the electric arcs, particularly near the furnace or the personnel who are working in industries. So, he also could face burns because of the electrical arcs. Similarly, flame burns during the ignition could happen on clothing or any other combustible material which are nearby. So, proper necessary precautions have to be taken for such cases. The effect that electricity depends or electrical injuries which could happen depends on 4 factors: the voltage of the circuit at which it is being operated, the internal body resistance when the person comes in contact, the amount of current that flows during the time through the body when electrocution or he comes in contact with the live equipment, and finally the path with the conduction or electricity takes through the body to the ground. So, the effect depends on these 4 factors, or the seriousness of the effect could be judged by these parameters. So, the accident person or a accident victim who comes in contact can incur the following from the electrical shocks, which when he experiences electric shock, these are some of the experience, or he could face the difficulties. It could be the breathing or respiratory difficulty. Sometime if the shock is of high intensity, his tongue may swell and it could obstruct the breathing. The second being the infectious complications which could develop because of the accident. The next could be injury to the bone when he falls, or it could be a muscle contraction which can happen during the sudden dynamic shock when he experiences by the contact of the live lines. Or it could be the injury to the heart, very dangerous. It could be such as the ventricular fibrillation or the cardiac standstill or a cardiac arrest could also happen. There may be injuries, minor or major injuries to the internal or other organs in the body. Again, this depends on the nature and the magnitude of the shock which a person experiences. There are reports which experiences a person could have a major neurological injuries or injury to the eyesight, injury to the eyes. So, several of this could be incurred depending upon the fatal nature of the person coming in contact with the voltages and the currents which flow in his body. So, this gives an example of the exposed conducting part. You have a line and neutral and other lead which are open, and in case a person comes in contact with the line through the extraneous conducting part, the current flows through the body and it is grounded. Similarly, in case of any exposed conducting parts which the exposed conducting path is connected to other equipment or other object, in case the person comes in contact with the object, it may not be directly coming in contact with the line, it could be an object, but that is again exposed and connected to the object. In such cases, the same current or the depending upon the nature of the voltage and the current, he gets electrocuted and the current flows through his body via an extraneous conducting path, and he could be electrocuted or he could get a electric shock from these type of exposed conductors. So, this could be a direct contact where a person comes in contact with the live wires or live conductors, and this is an example of the indirect contact or the person coming in contact with not directly with the live line, but the lines which are touching the equipment or the lines contacting the equipment which a person touches. So, these are again necessary precautions like using the proper insulating shoes or insulating gloves. During the operation, he has to switch off the mains which once he notices. So, directly touching the conductor is not advisable. Proper gadgets have to be used to verify, to check the supply of the lines or the conductors. Then he has to attend to the required work. So, the effects of this shock, as earlier also mentioned, could damage and burn a tissue. This happens because the electric current could result in severe tissue damage, as discussed. Some of the hazards which could happen during the shock and damage through the burning. There are mostly third degree burning, very dangerous, as these burning could occur from inside the body when the growth centers are destroyed. Particularly if the damage is higher or the magnitude of the shock is very higher, the vital internal organs, the burns because of this could cause a fatal to the victim who is coming in contact with such live lines. So, there could also be involuntary muscle contraction. This point we tried to discuss earlier, where because of the dynamic shock a person could experience the muscular contraction in an effect because of the flow of current in the body. So, as low currents which flow could cause the contraction effect and land him in unable to release a live conductor sometimes when he comes in contact. If the lung muscles are affected, the respiration might stop and the asphyxiation could occur for a person. The other could be ventricular fibrillation. This point we have seen earlier. The last of the body muscles which could be affected are the heart muscles. So, in case the heart is affected, the ventricular fibrillation or the irregular heartbeats could occur, and it could result in a serious fatal accident where a person could see the functioning of the heart, or there could be an arrest for the functioning of the heart because of the electrocution. This curve is important, which shows the duration of current flow over a period in terms of milliseconds, the time, and the x axis shows the time current zones, particularly for alternating currents AC in the frequency range of 15 to 100 megahertz, which a person experience. So, it is very clear there is a divisions here 1, 2, 3, 4. So, various divisions or zones have been categorized, and it is explained here depending upon the zones. Say example, if the zone 1, if a person has experienced this range of current for a time, usually not much of reactions are being seen by the personnel, and this shows the body currents which have been passed. The x axis shows the body currents and this duration of the time as mentioned. So, in case the body currents happen to be very less, that is a 0.5 milliamps or less than that, not much of feeling could be observed in a patient or a person. In case zone 2, it is between 0.5 to 5 milliamps. So, usually there could experience a shock, but it could not be very harmful, or no psychological effects could be observed in persons experiencing this category. But in case of 3, anywhere between 10 to say 500 micro amps, that is a zone 3, usually no organic damage could be expected here. The currents could not cause a serious injury, and it could likelihood be a muscular contraction and sometimes difficulty in breathing, where a reversible disturbance of formation and conduction of impulses in the heart could be felt, including arterial fibrillation and transient cardiac arrest without a ventricular fibrillation, which could increase the current magnitude and time. So, these effects could be observed in the person experiencing the currents during the contact, where the currents flow in the zone 3. In case of zone 4, in addition to effect of all the above, that is particularly in zone 3, the probability of ventricular fibrillation increases more than 5%. By observing the curve 2, you can see here the curve 2 is here, and curve 3 and curve 1, up to about 50% in case of curve 3 and above 50% beyond curve 3. This is the curve 3, above 50%. So, once the current increases beyond this, there could be an increase of the activity, or the effect of ventricular fibrillation could increase as per the percentage mentioned. So, this could increase the pathological effects such as the cardiac arrest or the major breathing problem, the breathing arrest, and heavy burns could occur to the patient. So, this gives an importance information for the exposure to the body over a period of time.